I'm Willie D. Nelson from All Things Good and Nerdy, a pop culture podcast, part of the Gonna Geek Network. Just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other tantalizingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And welcome to Play Comics, where once again we are here looking at a video game based on a comic property and how well it represents that source material. And today we're looking at something that, honestly, I don't know how to describe it. Insane might actually be the best word for it, which makes things oddly on brand here because I have Insane Ian here to help me look at Lucky Luke for the PS1. Ian, how are you today?
Yes, hello. I'm good. Happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Somehow, I keep getting you in for these Franco-Belgian comics. And how do I keep doing that?
Yes, Franco-Belgian comics. Just because these are the ones that strike my interest, so I'm like, yeah, I'll talk about that. Because there's something fascinating to me about a Franco-Belgian comic. Not just the fact that it's a Franco-Belgian comic, but the fact that it's a Franco-Belgian comic that is extremely focused on American history.
For anybody who really wants to look at weirdness, this isn't the first time I've done this with you. You also looked at North and South with me, which
yes, exactly.
makes even less sense.
Yes, because it's based on the Bluecoats, which it was re-released. The North and South has been re-released twice now under the name The Bluecoats North and South. But it is based on the comic called The Bluecoats, which is about the American Civil War.
We're not here today to talk about racist wars and everything. We're here to talk about maybe strange racist Western comics.
Yes, I was going to say weirdly racist. The comic, at least in what little I've read of the comic, not as racist as this particular game.
The comic, it sits in a really weird spot because on one hand, yes, I did not read this when I went out to lunch after a certain point because I was trying to get prepared for this one and for a different Lucky Luke episode. So I'm like, cool, I'll just knock everything out at once. I'll read a bunch of the comic at lunch. I'll be fine. And that was a mistake. Honestly, I probably would have been fine because I sit at the end of the bar usually and nobody can really see what I'm looking. But just in case they can see what I'm looking at, right. I want to be careful.
Yes. To put it mildly, their depictions of Native Americans are weird caricatures that don't even, they would make a lot of American racists kind of go, that's a bit much.
They are very much of their time.
Uh-huh.
And, you can't forget that Lucky Luke was made back in the 50s, 60s, that time frame. So, late enough to where people should know better, but early enough to where people didn't really care. You also have the cultural differences of, yes, this is weirdly offensive, not weirdly offensive. This is offensive to us. Do they have the same sensibilities over in Europe? I don't know because I don't live there.
Exactly. But the weird part of it to me is that despite the comic having been written in the 50s, 60s, although I'm pretty sure the comic has been going on for many years.
Mm-hmm.
From that point, the fact that this game that came out in 1998 continued the tradition of these depictions.
It's a tough little spot to put yourself in because do you want to be accurate to the comic or do you not want to make yourself look racist?
There's accuracy and then there's accuracy to a fault. And I think there are some things that, for the sake of accuracy, could still be omitted or slightly altered given the climate of the day.
I mean, I'm with you. I definitely of the mind where you don't have to be super accurate about everything if things have changed. People have realized
Yes.
that you should not just pull out the red paint for making your Native American characters. You
Well,
don't,
not even that. Like, did you get up to the caricatures in the game?
I did not in my cramming today, so stuff is being crazy. But I know in the comic, it's bad. It's like the worst level of Looney Tunes.
We're coming at this from different angles because in the comics that I have read, I have not seen many Native American caricatures. But in the game, I definitely saw some. And you saw them in the comic, whereas you didn't see them in the game. So they could be drastically different depictions. I will say in the game, there are 2 levels practically back to back. And these levels are, number 1, interminable because they go on forever. And number 2, the racist caricatures become doubly racist. So the point of the game is you're trying to find the Dalton brothers who escaped from prison, the Dalton brothers being the main antagonists of Lucky Luke throughout the comic book series. But in the game, in like the 3rd level, because the first level you're walking through Daisy Town, and and then you have a weird boss battle, and then the 2nd level is the Daltons are on the train, so you ride Jolly Jumper up to the train, and then you're walking through the train, rescuing passengers and fighting one of the Dalton brothers. The next level after that is the Daltons have escaped through this village, but there is, and I quote, an Indian witch doctor who has moonstones that have been captured, and you need to find all 10 of these moonstones in this level. And there's so much backtracking. The level's not that big. It's walking back and forth. You're following the checkpoint dog to different areas to find out where the stones are. But they've made like this giant. Remember Aka Aka from Crash Bandicoot?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like kind of like a mask kind of thing. Well, this Indian witch doctor is wearing one of a mask that looks like that over their entire body and ugging and oohing as he tells you things. So not only is it going racially against Native Americans, but apparently also against African witch doctors, or like even the concept of witch doctors. You know, nowadays we'd say, oh, that's a Native American shaman or something like that. But no, they're saying witch doctor, and it's doing, but it doesn't look like Native American. It looks African, and it's just there's so much wrong with it. And then that level is interminable because you have to find 10 different stones. And then the level after that, you're mazing your way through a mine shaft area, and then you get out of that, and then you come up to another area with Native Americans that is supposed to. The last 2 Dalton brothers have been captured, but before the Indians give them over to you, you need to find the pieces of their broken totem pole and put it back together in the proper order. And you have to ignore all the mirages that are happening in the world and the caricatures of the Indians that are through this. There is one that is wearing, there's a Rainmaker native whose mask looks like Frankenstein, and because the lightning bolts, and so he beats little things against his mask head, and then lightning strikes him and it lights the fire next to him, and you ride the clouds to different areas. This is a weird-ass game, man.
Right. All right, so I just found some screenshots, and yeah, it's the PS1 version of what's in the comics. So we're basically looking at the same thing here. How many different problems can we have with this? Okay, so outside of the racism anyway, you're already mixing cultures that are nowhere near each other. You're mixing cultures here in North America, because Southwest Indians, where this is set, are much different than Pacific Northwest, which is where you mostly have totem poles. Yeah, this is so Lucky Luke, he has a horse.
He has a horse named Jolly Jumper.
There's nothing wrong there, except for the fact that I'm scared of horses.
There's nothing wrong with Jolly Jumper. For whatever reason, after every level, there is a bonus level which is just some sort of weird mini game. The first one is a shooting gallery that, again, is interminable. It feels like it never ends. There are bottles that are flying at you that you shoot out of the sky, and they just keep coming. That bonus level lasts forever. And then the second bonus level is your arm wrestling Jolly Jumper. You are arm wrestling a horse. It's a cartoon. I feel like this version of Lucky Luke, which, by the way, this version of Lucky Luke is one of the only two, actually, Lucky Luke games that have made it to North America. They have dozens others in France and the UK and Europe, but this is one of two that has made it to North America. How lucky we are. But yes, I feel like this is based more on the cartoon that came out in France and Belgium that was based on the comic rather than the comic itself, because of the sound effects that are used, because of the dog that's there, that's your checkpoint. Every so often you're walking through a level and you see a dog and you walk up to it and it goes, checkpoint. And then I've just gone to calling it the checkpoint dog because I haven't watched the cartoon and I've never seen the dog in the comic. So
fair enough.
I think it might be from the comic strip, from the cartoon, I mean. But you can tell that this is still a at least French adjacent production. Number one, because it's from Infogrames, which is a French company. And the narration in it, despite being said in English, has a French accent. So there's definitely all these hints of this was not an American production. But yeah, just the weird caricatures that are going through it, that are going from all different types. And like you see other Native Americans in it who are not wearing masks, but they are your typical cartoon Indians. And there are ghost versions of them too, which is also a whole nother spirit weirdness thing that's going on with it. I didn't get much further in playing the game nor watching a playthrough of it, to be honest, other than the second Native American level where you're trying to find the totem poles. That's kind of where I stopped.
I mean, how much Lucky Luke exposure had you had before getting ready for this episode?
I had read I have the first volume of the 5-volume books that have come out about Lucky Luke that go into the history of the character, reprints a bunch of the original comics from the Spiro books in English for the first time in America, and it's like the original design of Lucky Luke in that book. I only have the first one. I haven't been able to pick up the other ones yet. But I played the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance games. The Game Boy Color game was released in America only on regular Game Boy, and so despite being in color in territories outside of the US, it is just a standard Game Boy game in America. And also I have the Game Boy Advance game, which is, region free, but that's from the version I have is from Britain, I believe, or the Europe area. And I've seen a couple clips, at least, of the movies. There was a movie recently, I think it came out in 2019, a live-action Lucky Luke film starring Jean Jardin, which I think that's who's playing the lead.
That makes me feel a lot better about not catching the fact that there was a movie, though, because not only do I live in a black hole under a rock, it sounds like it's a French movie.
Yes, it is very much a French movie. Jean Dujardin, who most Americans would know from the movie The Artist, the Oscar-winning motion picture from 2011. But yes, this movie came out in, I'm sorry, not 2019, 2009. I was a little off.
Oh, they're both just a few years ago. We're fine.
Yeah, still. Because time and math are a weird thing. But there have been many adaptations. Back in the 90s, there were Italian films made of it starring Terence Hill, and I also believe produced by Terence Hill. Most gamers nowadays would know Terence Hill as one half of Slaps and Beans. They made a platformer about Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, who had starred in a few Italian movies together. They're American actors, but starred in a bunch of Italian movies together and were known as Slaps and Beans, and they have 2 beat-em-up games starring them, which is just the weirdest concept for a game. But Terrence Hill plays Lucky Luke in a series of movies. I think 6 or 8 movies, the first 3 of which also star Madeline Kahn.
Wow, they're just pulling people from all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And there's of course been animated features and animated series of Lucky Luke, most of which you can see on YouTube. There was an animated movie around the time of the Wii called Lucky Luke Go West. So there is a Wii game as well as a 3DS game for that. That was a tie-in to the movie. There was a Super Nintendo Lucky Luke game as well. So, the characters had a lot of different adaptations. And so some of those I had played, some of those I had seen, some of those I had only seen clips of. But I had some exposure to it. Although I own this on PS1, I had not actually ever gotten around to playing it until I signed up to talk about it.
I mean, from my side of things, I started reading the comics, getting ready for this episode and the other one that hasn't come out yet. My wife did French in college and high school, and she just really likes that. So she had a bunch of Lucky Luke in her textbooks and everything. So
Right.
I knew that the character existed from her talking about that. I knew that there were some games that had come out places that are not North America, but hadn't really looked at any of them because I learned about it because I was looking for things that I needed to cover here. And
Sure, of course.
like, there's just so many things to cover here. It's like, okay, I'm not going to go necessarily play this one that I'm not going to cover if I don't need to worry about it.
Exactly.
So for me, this was just, all right, cool. This is a good place for me to figure out what's going on with this character. I know that it has to be important if they're getting a game coming out over here because they're not going to put out a game over here for no reason. And, if the comic is that old, then it's still going. It's fine.
Yeah. I think one of the cartoons may have come out over here because I feel like I saw something like that. Like same thing with Asterix and Obelix. I feel like I saw some of it on like Nick Jr. way back in the day when I was a kid.
Nick Jr. had some really weird stuff though when we were kids.
It did. It had a lot of Canadian cartoons on it, which is how, and a lot of Canadian TV shows technically, because You Can't Do That on Television was a Canadian production. So that I saw it on Nickelodeon when I was a kid, but it came from Canada, and these cartoons being in English, but still being based in France or at least Franco-Belgian, means that they probably translated them for Canadian TV rather than American TV, and because of Nickelodeon, found its way to America somewhat.
Oh, we're going to try to figure out what that really weird show was that we remember from early Nickelodeon. Well, I dropped some promos for a few other things.
Hi, and welcome to Gender Pop. I'm your host Carly, but don't worry, it won't just be me. A roster of beautiful people will be joining me throughout the season to discuss their relationship to gender through the lens of pop culture. If you want to hear passionate and honest and thoughtful conversations that explores our journey with the concept of gender by examining the art and media we consume, then this is the podcast for you. I do hope that you will check it out. Please subscribe and follow as new episodes are released every Tuesday. Thank you, and I really look forward to embarking on this with you. Gender Pop is completely free and available wherever you like to listen.
In the not-too-distant future, following the rapid succession of World Wars III and IV, plus the hidden horrors of secret World War II, there's not much left. All that remains is a place where folks get together to read and discuss comic books. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they argue, but they always record and upload their transmissions. You have found one of those transmissions today. Welcome to the last comic shop. Rate, review, and subscribe to our weekly comic book reviews on all the major podcasting platforms at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
Those are some great things to check out, but first let's finish up here. So Ian, we've kind of looked at it a little bit, we've talked about it a little bit, but why we're here is this Lucky Luke game for PS1. came out in 1998 just for the PS1. Infograms and infograms, because infograms is infograms. I just like saying infograms.
Yes.
It's really fun.
It's a fun word to say, yeah. Which, R.I.P. to infograms. They're not around anymore, but...
We've seen a bunch of stuff from them before, in addition to North and South and a few Smurfs games. They did some Dragon Ball things. They did some Superman things.
They did Driver back in the day, and I was a big fan of Driver before Ubisoft picked it up from them. They bought the property from them and released a few titles before stopping doing that. But that's another French company, so...
Basically, the whole plot of this game is the Dalton brothers break out of prison. Lucky Luke has to go out and get them back so that they can go back to prison.
Yes.
And I don't mean to say that like it's a bad thing. I mean, it's a PS1 game. Like, you're not going to have a huge plot anyway. I'm just trying to shorten it up a lot.
Exactly. And it's in its execution, it is a platformer. You know, it is basically a side-scrolling platformer. There are small shooting sections in it. Lucky Luke has unlimited ammo.
Thank
One of the
God.
characteristics of Lucky Luke is that he's a crack shot. And in the first level, they show that he's a crack shot by most of the shooting that you do in that first level being ricocheting shots off of things to take out enemies in three-dimensional space, despite it being basically a 2D side-scroller. There are moments where you're walking more in the background than the foreground, and there are later levels where things kind of rotate. It is a 3D model, but it is presented initially as a side-scroller. And the shooting mechanics are weird, because aiming with it is hard to aim on the diagonal sometimes. Lucky Luke moves really slowly. There is a run button, but it's very floaty controls. The jump's kind of weird, and the way he reacts to things is odd. I wasn't looking at the instruction booklet when I was going through the game, so some of the items that you're collecting, like the bees, I have no idea what they do. I have, your health bar is kind of hard to parse on screen. It's a weird title. It's not a bad game by any sense. It's just unique. It's at least not a bad game in gameplay style. It is a little interminable in levels, and yet at the same time also surprisingly short. I don't understand how levels can feel like they can take days, but the game overall can be beaten in about an hour and a half.
It's a really weird one, because it seems to me like a game that would have started to have been made for the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, that era of things, and then just went on too long or too late, and so moved up to the PlayStation because that existed.
But at the same time, there was already a Lucky Luke game on Super Nintendo that never made it over to America. And that game, because this is done with 3D models, that one is specifically a 2D side-scroller. It's not 3D models, and it also just moves a lot quicker. It's a lot more fluid. The animation looks a little crisper. The CGI cutscenes, or I should say pre-rendered cutscenes in this are fine. They are a little, PS1 flavored 3D, but, it's evocative of the time, evocative. It's just very reminiscent of, this is what everybody's doing on PS1.
And for anybody who hasn't seen screenshots of the game or playthrough videos of the game or anything, when we say 3D, what we really mean is like Donkey Kong Country 3D, where sometimes you can jump to the back.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you can jump to the background or walk up to the background. Sometimes the parallax scrolling. There's in the mission where you're going through and trying to get all the moonstones, you're bouncing on different things, and the camera will move up slightly above, so it's almost like an isometric view. So it's like slightly above it rather than side scrolling, but like as you're bouncing, the camera shifts on that, and it gets really barfy when you're like consistently bouncing and the camera is trying to shift between side-scrolling and slightly above, and it's just that's a bit of a mess. And especially going through the mine level where there's so many leaps of faith in platforms that you can't see, and it's controlling not terribly, but level design just being short but also so full of backtracking. It's a mixed bag. Again, I don't want to say it's a completely terrible game, although again the depictions are kind of awful. But it's there is some fun to be had, but there I feel like maybe more frustration than fun.
This seems like something that you would want to grab and play because it is bad, because it's not so bad that it's unplayable.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a solid 6 game out of 10.
Exactly. This isn't Darkman for NES where everybody's sliding everywhere and you only bought it because you like the property. This is like it is, I think, a good representation of the comic, at least, because most of the comic is Lucky Luke, the yellow shirt, red bandana clad, slowpoke kind of laid back cowboy who is a crack shot, and his anthropomorphic horse side character Jolly Jumper trying to capture the Dalton brothers. The 4 Dalton brothers always breaking out of prison. He always captures them to put them back in. That's kind of the running gag in the Lucky Luke series. So, in that most basic of plot lines and how the game plays, I feel that's accurate.
As far as I can tell, this doesn't follow any specific comic, which means it's kind of following all the comics. So
exactly.
I mean, plot-wise, you're fine.
Exactly. It's not picking. It's not cherry picking any specific storyline because this storyline is oft repeated in the books anyway. So,
and I did have the manual pulled up as I was looking at things, and I have the manual pulled up now. I mean, it doesn't really tell you a ton about what's going on. There's a little bit of, here in this mini game, this is what you do to press these buttons. Because one thing that I kept seeing in videos was like, oh, here's this mini game, bonus game, and it doesn't tell you how to play it, but it's people looking at it in like 2020 and they don't see anything on the screen, where when you get this game in 98, you're going to have the manual with it.
Exactly. Or you would hopefully have the manual with it. But it's very like there's one of the third mini games that came up, the bonus level, was this card game that on the face seems like you're playing memory, but you would get money stacks no matter what card you picked, and it didn't seem like there was any fail state, so I didn't quite understand it. It just kept going. And then, there's a card that you can select that says exit, so you can, leave it at any point. It's just building up money, and it's just what's the point of this? This doesn't make sense. It's very weird.
Well, one of the cards was one of the Dalton brothers. So,
okay.
Yeah, if you flip that one over, then you lose all the money you've gotten.
I see.
So you were just really good at picking random cards.
Yes, apparently. But yeah, if you have the manual pulled up, because there are different things that you can pick up. You have your 6-shooter, and then you can pick up dynamite. And the sticks of dynamite, he doesn't throw, he just places on the ground. So if you didn't know that going into the game, you're expecting that he's going to chuck the dynamite at something to blow it up. No, he's instead going to place it down directly in front of him, and if you don't move after you place it, you get blown up too. So, there are boxes or crates in the way of you, and you have to put the stick of dynamite in front of that to get that out of the way so that you can progress through the level. On the train mission, you collect dynamite, and because you're running along the top of the train, and you collect dynamite to blow apart hatchways so that you can drop in, shoot out one of the gang members, and rescue a passenger who's been captured. So using the dynamite is one of the things, and that's kind of obvious that you're picking up dynamite, and it shows you when you're on the icon on the screen. But then there are these giant letter B that I don't know what it stands for, and I don't know what it does. And then there are stars, and I'm not sure what those do. And then there are dollar signs, and those obviously are money. So, but there's money, dollar signs scattered everywhere, and you're like, why are you gathering money? Is Lucky Luke robbing the place at the same time? He's supposed to be a good guy, right? But it turns out the money is used at the end of the level because, for whatever reason, despite this being a PS1 game where memory cards were how you saved games, there is no save feature in this game. There is a password system, and the only way you get the password is by spending $100 of the money that you found in a level at the end of the level to use a password to get you to where you left off at the beginning of the next level. You can either do that, or you can buy for $30, I think, like extra lives, which are, shown by icons of Lucky Luke's face in gold, which are also things that are scattered in the levels as well. It's hard to lose lives in this game, but other than that one horrendous tennis boss fight. But the icons of the stars and the letter B's, I'm not sure what those were for, and I don't know why I was collecting them. And after a while, I couldn't collect stars. I would walk over them and it wouldn't collect it. So I'm like, apparently I have enough of whatever the hell this is. So if you have the manual there, what does it say they do?
The letter B, so the letter B's, they are, you pick them up to get into the bonus games.
Oh, of course.
And there are 4 of them throughout the level. And if you get all 4, then you get to do the bonus game.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the sheriff stars, which is what those stars are bonus credits to your score bar, and you get an extra energy point. And if you get everything to get that extra energy point, then you just can't get any more stars because you don't need it and you don't have anywhere to put it.
Yes, because your energy point is full. Okay, that makes a lot of sense why you can't pick those up. All right. Well, knowing that makes sense. The B's lead to the bonus levels. I'm like, okay, because I kept getting a bonus level after every level, and I'm like, well, this doesn't seem very bonus. It just happens every time. No, it was happening because I was picking up the B's. That makes sense. I wish I had looked at that, but admittedly, my copy of the game is packed away, and I was playing an emulation version of it.
I mean, thankfully, we've just grown up being taught that if you see letters hanging out in a game, you go get them.
Yes, if there's an icon to be collected, you will collect it. Which is why Default Dan is such a fun game, because it kind of like turns that on its head and like breaks you of that habit.
Editor Chris, go look that game up. I mean, this game is, you know what? I mean, that's how I feel about this game. It's sitting there in this weird space of, it's showing you Lucky Luke, but it's weirdly bad, but it's not bad, but
there are worse games. It's not great. It's playable. It is somewhat entertaining, but it is also frustrating, slightly annoying, and horribly racist. So you have your pluses and minuses here.
What are the big things that this game really gets right looking at Lucky Luke?
It gets the character right, I'm pretty sure. The character of Luke, the character of Jolly Jumper, the character of the Daltons, these all seem fairly accurate. Although, while the Daltons they all wear the same outfit, they're all slightly different in height and weirdly nose size. But my wife was watching a playthrough of this with me, and when you're fighting the Dalton on the train, one of the Dalton brothers on the train, she's like, wait, why is the Frenchman throwing bombs? This seems very wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean the Frenchman? She goes, oh wait, no, this is based on a French comic, right? I'm like, well, Beljo Franken, yes. And she's like, well, the Dalton brother looks like a French guy because he's got the mustache and he's throwing bombs. And I'm like, he's not Bomb Voyage from The Incredibles, but yes, I get the correlation there. But yeah, they're always in the yellow striped prison outfits, and they're all different heights, and they all have the same kind of face with the weird same kind of mustache, but some of them have long protruding noses, some of them have short bulbous noses, and that's supposed to be the way that you're telling them apart by height and nose shape, apparently. But for the most part, they look like they do in the comic, and that's everything looks like it does in the comic, just kind of bumped up a little to be 3D-ish. Polygonal 3D, but 3D nonetheless.
Down to all the weird racist depictions of characters, too. I mean,
yes,
I don't want to hammer it into this too much. And yeah, you're right.
Too late at this point.
I know, right? But like, if you're looking at this game and you're thinking like, wow, that looks bad and horrible, I don't want to do that. Yeah, the comic is at least that bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's it is accurate in its unfortunate depictions of Native Americans.
And if you get into the comic, also Chinese.
Yeah, I did see some of those, which I didn't see in the game, which is why I didn't mention it.
Like, I don't want to give people credit for racism because that is not something they should ever get credit for.
Of course not.
But I will make it like 99% bad instead of 100% because it is accurate, so they're not just making it up.
Yeah, but you would think, again, in 1998, they would have said, hey, this probably wouldn't fly nowadays. Maybe we should omit this. Sacrifice this in the sake of accuracy. Maybe we shouldn't be this accurate with our depictions, because those from the comic, they're not great. But no, they went, you know what, let's go for it. Let's be as accurate as possible, right down to the terrible caricatures. It's unfortunate. And it's like, we don't want to give points for accuracy because the accuracy is really shitty.
What do you think this game really gets wrong looking at Lucky Luke?
There have been other Lucky Luke games that, yes, Lucky Luke is very laid back, but they're much faster paced than this game. The level design, and I mean, it's kind of accurate to the art style, sure, but this game is incredibly obtuse in its level design. There's a lot of backtracking. There's a lot of going around small areas that, the levels should be bigger than they are, but they're not. And it's a lot of like collectathons of, collecting moonstones or pieces of a totem pole or what have you, just trying to get through things. And it's just like, that's not really a total reflection on the comics, but at the same time, it's like it kind of pulls away from the enjoyment of the world itself and how it looks and how Lucky Luke interacts with that. In the other games, Lucky Luke is not walking along like he's moseying the entire time. He's walking at a fairly good clip. This game, Lucky Luke moseys through the whole game. There is a run button, but, until you realize you have the option to run, he's just strolling through the entire game. And and even the run isn't super fast. So it doesn't seem like the pace is as picked up as one would like in it.
And even in the comic, like, things are still moving along.
Exactly.
This game makes it seem like Luke is going to sit there and just kind of wait for everything to happen.
Exactly.
It's going to magically show up in front of me. All right, I'll take care of it then. Like, Luke actually goes out looking for people. Jumper goes out separately looking for people.
Exactly. He's not just waiting for things to happen to him or to happen in front of him for him to react to. He's a little more proactive than that.
I mean, you're obviously going to have your little bit of backtracking on things because you have a page count for the comic and you need to fill it up. And so
of course,
that kind of thing happens. But I mean, this game makes it seem like he's like your stereotypical, it's 120 degrees outside, we don't want to move because that means effort, which means heat.
Exactly.
If you knew somebody who wanted to get into Lucky Luke, ignoring the fact that there are better games that exist and ignoring the racism part, would you give them this game as part of a primer course?
It's difficult to ignore the racism, and typically we shouldn't. But I would say that as a primer course, ignoring the other games, ignoring the other adaptations of the character, I would say that this is actually kind of a decent representation of the character from the comic. It should probably have the label on the back that a lot of DVD releases have of like, this was made in a different time and does not reflect our views, blah, blah, blah. But just kind of like a warning to go, oh yeah, by the way, in this game, there are going to be some racist caricature depictions of characters that do not fit in with today's climate. Yeah, so like, a little disclaimer on that I feel honestly is necessary. But yeah, it's it's so weird that like, the comic strip that was written in the 50s and 60s had a video game made in 1998 and it kept all of that in.
Yeah, I mean, ignoring the racism might have been the wrong way to say it, because what I really meant was more of like it's in there, it's in the comic, like don't keep this game from being a recommendation because of the racism.
Right.
But,
of course.
Yeah. But I mean, when you go in there, it's like, I mean, this is maybe a good first one because it's slower than everything else, but also
exactly, yeah,
there's the racism, and I don't know.
Exactly. There are pluses and minuses to recommending this game, of course. Again, the gameplay is slow paced, still entertaining. The level design, some levels super fun, some levels really, really long, feels interminable. Collecting 10 of those moonstones is just ridiculous. 5 would have been, even pushing it. 3 would have been a good max. 4 pieces of a totem pole, it's kind of a little bit more balanced, but the level design on that one's weird. But at the same time, the first level in Daisy Town and the train level, those are fantastic. Those are super fun. Good Old West shootout kind of adventure platforming levels. Those are super fun. So you have a lot of pluses and minuses to it. And again, it is, even with the characters, it's caricatures, it is still a good representation of how the comic looks and feels.
I think my first question, giving anybody this, is, are you going to see the racism in here and instantly hate me for exposing you to this? Because you're asking me about it. I wanted you to be prepared.
That's a very valid question. And I think, again, if you're recommending it, at least give a disclaimer saying, hey, this is based on an old comic. They had certain depictions. It is what it is. But at the same time, outside of that, beyond that, it is, a good idea of what the character of Lucky Luke is, what his mission is in the comics, and what his main antagonists are.
Well, speaking of his main antagonists, let's give him a new bunch of enemies to go round up, because getting the Dalton brothers every time, that's just dumb and overdone. So which 4 Muppets is Lucky Luke gonna be going after?
Yeah, having some more outlaw gangs to go after is definitely probably a better idea. In the first couple of comics that I read with the original design of Lucky Luke, some of them were more Mexican banditos and outlaws, but the Dalton brothers were the ones that recurred so much. But having him go up against different outlaws, like say he's trying to take down the 10 most wanted, and the Daltons might be the top 4 or something like that. Have a little bit more variety in the outlaws that he's trying to take down. Not that I'm expecting, Lucky Luke to turn into something like Red Dead Redemption, but, I wouldn't begrudge it if it did.
So let's make up a gang of Muppet characters. Who's going to be the new gang?
Well, let's see. Animal would definitely be the heavy. You would send Animal probably out first because you don't expect him to get past Animal. Fozzie Bear would probably be the one that's in the saloon that's trying to distract you with bad jokes while trying to take you out. Who did you have in mind?
I think you have to have New Zealand in there because this is kind of kid-friendly, so you get somebody who's not shooting.
He's throwing fish at you. Yeah. And possibly, what's the Rizzo? I feel like Rizzo would probably be in the gang.
I think Rizzo would not only be in the gang, Rizzo would be leading the gang.
Yeah, that's why I saved it for last.
Well, Ian, it has been great talking to you about all of this, despite all the racism.
Which is a weird sentence to say out of context. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun talking to you about this despite the racism. That's a great thing to have on record. All right, cool.
So, Ian, it has been great talking to you about all of this. If people want to hear more from you, where else can they find you around the internet?
Well, I do comedy music, and I also am a big comedy music fan, and I have a big YouTube channel at youtube.com/insaneian, where I release my own comedy music and react to comedy music of others. Also, if you want to hear my stuff on any of the streaming sites, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc., you can find Insane Ian there, as well as on my Bandcamp page, where you can actually buy music from at insaneian.bandcamp.com. I'm also starting a new YouTube channel where I discuss comic books and video games and adaptations of those, which is at youtube.com/@InsaneIanComicsGaming. The channel is called Insane Ian Comics and Gaming, but the abbreviation is at Insane Ian Comics Gaming.
Man, that sounds really familiar. If people are liking this show, they're probably going to like yours.
Exactly. I delve into more than just comics being adapted into video games. I talk about movie adaptations. I talk about television adaptations. I talk about video games being adapted to movies. And, of course, video games being adapted into comics and comics being adapted into video games, etc. I go through the whole gamut. So not just focusing on the things that you're doing, Although when the first time I was on this show, I was like, this is the kind of thing that I've been wanting to do, but in video form. So you definitely have been a bit of an inspiration behind that, but it's also been something that I've been slowly working on for far too long. I've been amassing a lot of material, and my wife is like, you're spending so much money, start making videos about it.
Isn't it great when wives want you to start making the things so that you're not just blindly spending money and spending time on the
Yes.
thing?
Yeah, why spend the money when you can actually make it as a tax write-off and make a product from it? So yeah, there's nothing up on the channel as of this recording, but hopefully there will be something up there soon. The TV show Revival just came out, had its 10 episodes and ended on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that is of course based on a 49 issue series, and that is likely the first video that I'm going to do for my channel is a look at the Revival TV series and how it compares to the comic book.
Well, through the magic of being over-prepared for the American Thanksgiving through New Year's timeframe, that channel might be started by the time this comes out. Who knows?
So yeah, go subscribe.
So the best thing is check the show notes for all the links, because we'll have links to all those things down in the show notes, not only because clicking links is easier than trying to remember how to spell things, but also because some of those links don't exist yet, but they might by the time this comes out.
Precisely.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This was super fun.
Hey, you're always great to have on, and we're definitely going to have to make it happen again. Hopefully for something that is not so problematic, because I didn't realize that that's what I kept getting you on for.
That's entirely fine. The Blue Coats wasn't nearly as intriguing as this one was in its problematics. And Shadowman's just a great game. So
oh yeah, Shadow Man's the outlier here. How weird is that when Shadow Man is the normal one?
Exactly. And there is word that there is a new Shadow Man game coming out.
As for me, the best place you can find me is over on playcomics.com, where you can find links to all the social media things, which is mostly just Blue Sky and Threads. That's where I've settled. That's where I'm going to be. So it's just kind of how things are going to roll. If you want to be on the show yourself, or you have a friend who you think want to be on the show, or, something in that general vicinity of realities, then there's a link down in the show notes to what I am looking to get booked the soonest. Those are the big priority games. Since I'm going roughly chronologically, I do kind of want to stick with that, but we'll see what can happen with everything. If you want to help support the show, then you can be like Dan McMahon or Ono Lit Class and give the show money, because unfortunately it does cost money to run a podcast. But you can also just tell your friends about it, or your family, or random people you see on the bus because you live in a place with a functioning public transportation system, anything like that. Sharing the show is great, and so that's just always a great thing you can do. Don't forget that Play Comics is a big part of the GonnaGeek.com network, home to such wonderful shows as Capes on the Couch, where Doc is just a gem of a human, and Anthony's not that bad either, because I'm blaming him for their lack of a Spider-Gwen episode. If you want to hear Carrington, Martin, and I talk about the things that we learned back when we were kids watching all that children's media, and how, why were we supposed to forget about those things? Oh yeah, we shouldn't. If everybody would just keep following the lessons that they learned as kids, then maybe it wouldn't be so bad. So you can check out Sugar Spite and Everything is Fine, where we take a look at some of those things. If you like the music that I'm rudely talking on top of right now, then check out backingtrack.gg and all the great music over there. But most of all, just grab a game, grab a stack of comics, and go find yourself a new favorite character.
But just kind of like a warning to go, oh yeah, by the way, in this game, there are going to be some racist characteristic, I want to say caricature. Racist caricature